Lesson 11.7. What we're going to be doing is we're dividing polynomials. Now, if you remember, what we've done in lesson 11.4 to 11.6 is we simplified rational expressions, multiplied and divided rational expressions, and added and subtracted rational expressions. Now, what rational expressions are? Just fractions with variables. So like if I had 3x over 12x squared, I would need to simplify that, okay? And I would say 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 12, 4. Cancel out my x's, and I'm still left with 1 down here because I only canceled 1 out. So I'd get 1 over 4x. That's how you simplify a rational expression. So today what we're going to be doing is dividing polynomials. Not the same thing as dividing rational expressions, okay? But you will need to know how to simplify a rational expression once we're finished dividing, okay? So in example 1 here, what they want us to do is they want us to divide the polynomial 9x squared plus 12x minus 18, divide everything by 3x. So what that means, okay, is that every single one of these terms needs to be divided by 3x. Now this is where your simplifying rational expressions comes in handy. Alright, this is all we want to do is simplify each one of these. So what number can go into both 9 and 3? 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 9 3 times. And how many x's can I cancel out? 1. So this one goes away completely, but how many am I left with up top?
1.
What's 3x over 1? 3x. So we leave this just like it is. So the next term, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to divide 12x by 3x. So what number can go into both 12 and 3? 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 12 4 times. And what can I do with those x's? Cancel them out. So what's 4 over 1? 4. Okay, now what number can go into 18 and 3? 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 3 goes into 18 6 times. Now, can I do anything with that x? No. So it has to stay just like it is. So we write minus 6 because 6 is my numerator. And what's on the bottom? 1x or just x. And this would be my final answer. Okay, so we're just dividing each term by whatever it tells us to divide by. So let's do the next one now. They want us to divide 12x squared minus 20x plus 8 by 4x. So I'm going to take each of these terms and they're going to be divided by 4x. All right, what number can go into both 12 and 4, Derek? 4. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 12 3 times. How many x's can I cancel out, Crystal? 1. So the 1 on the bottom goes away completely. How many am I left with up top? 1. So I've got 3x over 1, which is really just 3x. Let's go on to the next one. What number can go into both 4 and 20? 4. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 20 5 times. What can I do with my x's? Cancel them out because x over x, we just cancel it out. Now, what's the sign right there in front of 20? Negative. So we've got to make sure that stays negative 5. And then what number can go into both 8 and 4? 4. 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 8 2 times. And I'm left with 2 over x, or 2 over 1x. Okay? All right, I'm going to give you one to do on your own. Let's see. If you had the divided by sign and by are basically the exact same thing. So don't worry if it's a little division sign instead of the word by. Okay? 15x cubed minus 12x squared plus 3x divided by 6x.
What? You can't. Wait, yeah, you can.
Okay. We're just going to do the exact same thing we did on the other ones. Divide each term by 6x. All right, so every one of these terms we want to divide by 6x. And I'm just going to simplify. What number can go into both 15 and 6? 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And how many x's can I cancel out? 1. So this one goes away completely. And how many am I left with up top? 2. So my first term is going to be 5x squared over 2. It is perfectly fine to get a fraction. Okay? Now, what number can go into both 6 and 12? 6. 6 goes into 6 one time. 6 goes into 12 two times. And how many x's can I cancel out? 1. So this one goes away. And how many am I left with up top? Now, what's negative 2x over 1?
2x.
Negative 2x. I don't need to write that one as a fraction. And then last but not least, what number goes into both 3 and 6? 3. 3 can go into 6 two times. 3 can go into 3 one time. And what can I do with my x's? Cancel them out. Now, what is on top of this fraction? A 1. It has got to stay there. I cannot say that my last term is 2 because that would not be correct. Okay? So this would be your final answer here. All right, now in example 2, what they want us to do is they want us to divide, but we've got more than one term now. We've got x minus 1, okay? We cannot do the exact same thing that we did on the last one because I can't divide x squared by x minus 1 because watch what would happen, okay? What's off limits? X minus 1. So is there anything I could even simplify at all with x squared over x minus 1? No. So we cannot use the same method that we did in the last example. What we're going to do instead is long division, okay? Going back to your elementary days when we actually had to use long division instead of a calculator. So what you want to do with long division, so I want everybody paying close attention, okay, is you take whatever you're dividing by, and that goes on the outside. So we're going to write x minus 1 here on the outside. Then I'm going to write my division symbol here. And whatever I have that was listed first goes underneath the division symbol. So now I have x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay? So what you want to do now, everybody paying close attention because it's really not hard, but it's easy to get confused if you don't listen, okay? This is all you have to ask yourself. What would I need to multiply by this x right here that I have on the outside to make it identical to x squared? X, okay? So this is what I do. Ready? I say, all right, since I need to multiply it by x, I write the x right up there. Now, you always want to line up like terms. Always. I would never write that x over top of x squared because they're not like terms. Okay? So I write that x there, and then this is what you do. I multiply that x by both terms that I have on the outside. X times x is?
X squared.
X times negative 1 is? Negative 1x. Okay? Now, here's the rule that you have to remember. After you do that, you change the signs in what you just multiply. You just make it opposite. If it's a negative, you make it a positive. If it's a positive, you make it a negative. And this is the reason why. You ready? This first term should always cancel out. If it does not, you've done it wrong. Okay? It's always a good way to check yourself whether you're doing it right or wrong. That first term, once you change the sign, should always cancel out. Now we just add like terms. What's 2x plus 1x? 3x. Then what do you think I'm going to do with that 4? Drop it down just like regular division. Okay, now we do the exact same process all over again. What do I need to multiply by x to make it identical to 3x? 3. So where would that 3 go? Over the 4. And I put whatever type of 3 it's going to be. If it's a positive 3, I put a plus sign in front of it. Now I do the exact same thing. I'm going to take this 3 and I multiply it by both terms. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Now, what's that one rule that you have to remember? Change your signs. So this becomes a negative 3x. This becomes a positive 3. And what happens to my first terms there? That's the whole point. If they don't cancel out, you've done it wrong. What's 4 plus 3? 7. Now, is there anything left for me to drop down?
No.
Is there anything I could multiply x by to make it identical to 7? No. So this is what you have now. We have a remainder. My remainder is 7, so I'm going to put a plus sign, over, and all you write it over is what's right here on the outside, which is x minus 1. So this would be my final answer. All right, so in the next one, they want us to do the exact same thing. So somebody set this problem up for me. How would I start it out, Josh?
We started out by the non-division sign with x minus 1 on the outside.
Oh, we're on the second problem here, right here.
Well, x plus 3 then.
X plus 3 on the outside, perfect. And what goes underneath the division bar?
3x squared plus 7x minus 20.
Very good, okay? Now, once I get all that plugged in, this is the part where people go, what do I do now? Okay? So what you do, I ask myself, what do I need to multiply by this x to make it identical to 3x squared? 3 and x. Where is that 3x going to go over top of? The 7x, because it's got to be the like term. So then I just distribute this 3x to both terms. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 3 is 9x. Now, what's that rule that you have to remember? Change your signs. So this becomes a negative 3x, and this 9 becomes a what? Negative 9. What happens to that first term? Cancels out. That's the whole point. We want it to cancel out. What is 7 minus 9, or 7 plus negative 9? Negative 2x. And then I drop down my negative 12. Now, watch this. What would I have to multiply by x to make it identical to negative 2x? Negative 2. So I write negative 2. Okay? Multiply this negative 2 times x, which is negative 2x. Then multiply the negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. What am I going to do now? Change your signs. Positive 2x, positive 6. What happens to that first term? Cancels out. That's the whole point. And then what is negative 12 plus 6? So watch this. Since my remainder is a negative number, okay, we write our minus sign. Instead of a plus sign, we use a minus, and we put 6 over x plus 3. Because you always want to write your remainder over what you divided by. So this is your final answer here. So, let's do one on your own. Here we go. I'm going to give you this one to do. You are going to do... I'll even set it up for you.
Wait, why is it x minus 2? That's my 1.
No, I'm giving you another problem to do on your own. Okay, y'all do this one on your own. Do this one on your own. What would I multiply by x to give me x squared? X. So we put our x right here. And then I multiply by x, both terms. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. What do I do now? Change the signs. Remember, you cannot forget that rule. Negative x squared, positive 2x. My first term cancels out. 2x plus 2x is 4x. Then I drop down my negative 8. Now, what do I need to multiply by x to make it 4x? Positive 4. So now I have 4x minus 8, because I multiply the 4 by everything. Then what do I do to my signs? Change them. What happens now?
So you don't get
0. So now I don't have a remainder, and this is my final answer. Just like that. Okay, that's what happens when you don't have a remainder. That is your final answer. All right, now we're going to do these 4 problems as practice together, and then I'll let you start on your homework. Okay? So, do I need to do long division on this first problem? No, because I'm only dividing by one term. So I just take each of these and I divide them by C. What happens to my first one? C's cancel out and I'm left with a C up top and I get 9C. What happens to the second one? The C's cancel out and I'm left with plus 3. Final answer, just like that. Next one, I line up my negative 2x, negative 2x. Now, what happens when I have a negative divided by a negative? What does that leave me with? A positive. Well, what's going to even happen to the negative 2 and negative 2? Positive 1. Well, because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is positive 1. And then how many x's can I cancel out? 1. So I'm left with a positive 1x. Then what's negative 12 divided by negative 2? Positive 6. And what happens to my x's? Cancel out. So my final answer is 1x plus 6. Okay, long division on the last 2. All right, Taylor, how would I set up my problem on this third one right here? Perfect. All right, Crystal, what would I do now? Very good. I want to put a above 3. And how did you figure out to get that? Because you asked yourself, what times a gives me a squared? And we said a. And that a has to be lined up with its like term. All right, Kyle, what would I get now if I have my a out there?
Let's do that one.
1A.
Okay, we'd multiply a times a, which is
1A. A squared.
a squared. Very good. What's a times negative 1? Negative 1a or negative a. What do I do now, Emily? Change the signs. All right, Angelica, what happens to my first term?
Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, right?
Negative 2. Okay, so my first terms cancel out. What's negative 3a plus 1? Negative 2a. Drop down my 2. Now, what do I need to multiply by a to make it negative 2? Negative 2. Negative 2 times a is negative 2a. What's negative 2 times negative 1?
2.
Positive 2. Change my signs. And what happens here? Cancels out, so my final answer is a minus 2. No remainder. All right, last one. Reese, set it up for me. Very good. All right, Riley, what would I do now?
Multiply
Okay, I need to multiply by 2b. And where am I going to line that 2b up with? Over the negative 3b. Very good. All right, Maddie, what would I do now?
Multiply 2 by the 2b by the b and the negative 2.
Okay, and what would I get if I multiply both of those?
2b and negative 2b.
What's negative 2 times 2?
Negative 4.
Negative 4b. Very good. All right, what am I going to do now, Anna? Change your signs. And Abby, what am I left with? Very good. Now, what do I need to multiply by b to make it 1b? 1. What kind of a 1? A positive 1 or a negative 1? Positive. All right, so once I multiply by positive 1, Derek, what am I left with? Multiply 1 by b and negative 2, which leaves me with 1b and then negative 2. All right, I need to change my signs
Why isn't the first one b negative?
because we don't change our signs until we multiply. Because we don't want to multiply by
The top one b, why isn't it
this one right here. Why is that one not negative?
negative? 1b minus 4 and 1b minus 2, why isn't the 1b
Because what is negative 3 plus 4?
Oh,
Positive 1. And you don't ever want to multiply by the opposite, because I don't want to multiply by negative 1, because what I do is I change my signs once I do that. You never want to go ahead and multiply.
Why did you get plus 4b and not plus 6b?
Plus 4b and not plus 6b, because 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay? All right, so my first terms cancel out, and I'm left with negative 2 as my remainder. So how would I write my remainder?
Negative 2 over b minus 2.
Very good. So my final answer is 2b plus 1 minus 2 over b minus 2. Okay? This is your homework. Go ahead and get started on it.